There we are. Hi, Mayor.
Look, we have the same haircut.
I know. I go to my hairdresser. I go, I think I want this bob. She goes, that's not a bob. And I said, but this is what I want. It's basically like a boy's haircut.
Yeah, I got the same. We got the same day too. How funny is that? 3,000 miles away.
I know. But you're blonde.
Yes. Well, I'm gray, so now I'm blonde to cover up the gray.
Well, I'm gray, but I'm brown, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. So now it looks like you're live and I'm not. Oh, there I come. Okay. I'm fading in and out. So hello, everybody. We're on Facebook. This is Mary, and this is Gold Medical. And it's a new week, and it's Wednesday, the 25th. And I thought this week, maybe let's focus a little bit on communication. So nurses have vital roles in communicating with their patients. I have a little, I like numbering things like 1, 2, 3 or 1 through 5. So when it comes to communication, I have my 3 C's, and that would be communication, consideration, and confidentiality, because those pieces are really important. And I don't seem to be, live.
You keep freezing.
I'm freezing in and out. I don't know why that is, but you're there and you're fine. So let's just hope it keeps going. So the very, very key piece of the communication would be for good patient outcomes. However, there's important communication that goes on between nurses and physicians, nurses and other nurses, nurses and their nursing leaders. So there's all those pieces. I'd love your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I've never heard the 3 C's before. So we as nurses love those acronyms.
We do.
I would just throw an L in there because one of the key pieces of communication is listening. And I've recently just having, as probably my sister-in-law is down the hospital, Susan, and having gone down there enough, I'm really observing how many people actually listen to what she says. Mm-hmm. They come in with their messaging, and they've got a patient list, they've got a lot to do, and they're all good people, but they're not really listening, and they're not observing a lot of times as to what's going on. Communication, as you probably know, is 80% nonverbal.
Right.
Only 20% verbal.
Yeah.
And so especially when it comes to patients, I'm looking at, my poor sister-in-law who's been in there a month, who went in purely independent, walked, talked, went to the bathroom. Now she's incontinent and she, can't move and from one side to the other. And, people come in like, oh, how are you today? What's, it's sort of like, they don't even check. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need, they're not even, it's sort of like oblivious to them what's going on with them. They don't listen. And she'll say, I really want to get out of bed and I want to get up early because I want to get in the chair to do my, exercise. And of course, 11 a.m. could be early to some people. But, it's like they don't listen. And it's really become aware to me, are you really listening to what your people are telling you? Or are you expecting them to say something, in response to your question, just so you can move through the day?
Yeah. Yeah. And if the question is, how are you? And she says, okay, do they move on for that? Or do they not even hear her say, I'm not doing well. I want to do more today than I did yesterday. And
you and I both know this. And most people who listen to this are nurses. If you don't advocate for yourself, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have somebody like me come in or you come in, and which I do regularly, and I advocate for her, but I'm only there a certain amount of time. You have to advocate for yourselves, and your patients have to advocate for themselves. And as practitioners, we need to advocate for them. Right? So from a communication perspective, there's just so much more than words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know. So did you bring it to the attention of the person in charge or to the physician? Or
of course. Yeah. That's who I am. But I actually pushed her to do it too. I said, you need to talk to the physician, because he wasn't there, the house physician, the hospitalist. And this is what you need to say to him. And you don't have to do it she's so nice and she's so kind that, people, she tries to kill them with kindness. But at some point you have to say, look, I have a need and it's not being met and I need you to help me. and if you're not going to do that, and then people, she's like, they'll take it out on me. People get, they feel like, they're victims. So whether it's real or perceived, again, they feel that they're going to get punished if they complain.
Right. Well, could be her other experiences in her life or put her in that position. Yeah. Oh my. I'm sorry
to
hear
the
that.
lenses we look at things through, right?
Yeah. I think one of the reasons we haven't talked to you is because that's taken a lot of your time away. It's dreadful. It's dreadful. So it's a good topic to bring up. And and so that's key. And I love it. So we're going to say it's the 3 C's and an L.
Yep.
Communication, consideration, and what was my other C?
Confidentiality.
Very important in our HIPAA world that we live in. What can we offer to our listeners and the nurses out there and our gold medical employers and stuff? What about workplace communication? Because sometimes there's an issue, there's not an issue, there's kind of no management and then micromanagement. Any tips on or suggestions for people that are in a workplace thing that's either there's a lull or there's a problem? I keep fading out again.
I don't know why you're freezing, but
I don't know.
yeah, I have a pretty strong opinion on this. I've always been a very open leader, and I would share, even if you don't want to, even if the news isn't good, I would share it. People make up stories in lack of information. If you don't provide them with something, they're going to make a story up for it. Particularly if there's an issue going on, maybe there's, one of the, and this happens often, the physician that you're working for, there's stress going on in their family or their home or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And they have this big, and they come in and they're just all stressed out, and everybody just, are we going to close? Are we going to get worried? People don't understand what's going on because you always take it to yourself. So my whole thing is be as open as you can. I mean, everybody has to wear their heart on their sleeve, but you should be open in communication and specifically feedback. If somebody's doing something that, and this as well, you can always tell when somebody's mad at you or whatever, right? Because their energy changes, and so few people are comfortable saying, listen, what's going on?
Yeah.
My favorite thing is, well, my husband will tell you because, we have and I have my favorite communication story. If you want to hear a very funny story, I'll share that with you.
Okay.
But it's about, really share the information. People want to be in the know. People want to feel included. If they're not in the know, then they feel excluded. And that's when you start getting all these issues that you feel that, something's going on and you can be paranoid or whatever.
Yes. I talked about this early on when I started videoing for Gold Medical about I'm like you. I'm very open, and I feel like if you're having a bad day, you're having an issue, talk about it and then move on. Get it out, fix it, do whatever you can, move on. And so I have several offices, and so there must have been an issue in the morning. I don't really recall. And I was a little excited about it. We got it resolved. Then I get in my car and drive like an hour and a half and show up in an office and got a really cold shoulder and was trying to get down to business. And I found there's something wrong. And finally, my lead person in that office said, you were really mean this morning. And I was totally oblivious to it. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm so sorry. It wasn't you. It was the issue. And maybe my voice was loud, and I apologize, and we got it out, but it's palpable. Like you say, so much is occurring non-verbally.
Oh, yeah.
And, people were just, that leader she was so cold, and she's normally bubbly and wonderful. And I was like, is something going on? And it's like, you.
Well, and you owned it, which is great. You owned up to it. How many people don't want to own up to it? I couldn't do that. Well, everybody automatically is,
right.
God, I mean, I would admit when I was wrong all the time, because I got to tell you, it's nice to know that your leader is human like you.
Yeah.
It's nice to know they have feelings and stuff. I make mistakes. That's the way it is. We move on. And that's a role model for your team. You can make a mistake. You can move on. It
Yes.
doesn't, the world, my question is, and for any leader out there, especially if you're not in the hospital, did somebody die today? If somebody's all crazed, did somebody die as a result of nothing? Just take it down a notch, okay?
Yeah. That's true.
There really is very few
That's
emergencies unless it's life and death.
the patient outcome is the key. Yeah. And if you're, All right. So tell us that funny story.
All right. So, I'm married to Don for about 8 years, and we don't fight often. We usually get along, and I think we usually communicate well. I mean, the nuances, but for the most part.
Yeah.
So he actually says to me, could you help me tow a car somewhere, like from our house about 5 miles away? I said, sure, I can. I've never towed a car in the way before. And in his family, they call it growing up Hewitt. That's what you do when you're a kid. But I never did that. I grew up in Queens.
Yeah.
So I said, sure, I could do it. I go, what do I have to do? He goes, just keep the chain taut. Now, I've seen people on the highway towing each other, right? They're going fast. Nobody's going slow. So I said, that's all I have to do. That's all I have to do. How do you stop? I'll stop us. Don't worry. So now, mistake number one on me, I should have asked more questions, right? But
was he in another car in front of you or something?
he was in a truck, and he was in the green truck. We have a 1945 green Ford truck, right? And I was in another truck, probably 1974, because God forbid we have a new truck, towing him. So we go up the driveway. Now, this is right before I had his shoulder surgery as well. So we're going up the hill, and I'm going along, and the chain is tight. And I look out the window, and he's going like this. Now, to me, that means go faster, right? So we go another mile. We get to the end of this hill. It's a stop sign. And I realize the truck's smoking coming out of the top of it and stuff.
Whoa.
And we stop, and he gets out of the car, and he starts screaming at me in the street. Now, we don't even yell at home, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to come in. So much so, a man comes over from a gas station across the street and says, excuse me, ma'am, is everything okay? And I said to the man that's talking, I said, yes, sir. What you are witnessing is a failure to communicate. Because really, on a lot of levels, right? I didn't ask enough questions. He didn't give enough information. We didn't talk hand signals at all.
Yeah.
He meant stop, but he couldn't put his shoulder down to do stop. So I thought he meant go. So we didn't have any of those conversations, right? I mean, I finished towing him, and then I took off for the afternoon. I went and got a massage. I was like, really? You don't talk to me, scream at me. I didn't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Only to realize that in his family, people towed people. That's not something that was customary. I mean, how many people did you tow in Queens? Give me a break. Sorry.
I don't think I ever towed anybody. I called AAA.
I actually used that story with my team.
Yeah.
I shared that with my team when I went in to tell them how I failed to communicate. And now he's a man I live with. We are in sync most of the time.
Yeah.
And just to have that and not communicate. Imagine when you're talking, and they were recruiters, right? Imagine when you're talking to people, you don't know what's going on. Right. They don't know what's going on with you. You don't know what, your inflection or whatever. People tell themselves stories based on their history. So that's the same thing with patients. That's the same thing when you're working in an office. It's the same thing when you're working with staff. Now, there's no reason for anybody to have abusive conversation ever. I don't care what's going on in there. If somebody's abusive, that's not okay, right?
Yeah. And if you can't diffuse it, you have to say we'll have to continue this when you're feeling better, and you have to walk away. Yeah.
And you don't yell at people in front of people or any of that stuff. I mean, that's respect. That's just general respect, right?
I agree.
But I don't think people get enough education on. I mean, when did you take your last class on how to communicate?
No, it wasn't part of my nursing education. That's for sure. Yeah.
It wasn't part of the doctor's nursing education or medical education.
Right.
I mean, you're sort of assumed to know how to communicate.
Yeah.
And if you didn't grow up with people who were good talkers, and our families were all post-World War II people.
Yeah.
They didn't want to sit down and talk about how you felt.
No, I have no idea what happened to my dad in the service. My mom told me a little bit, but I hear that from people all the time. My dad was in the service, but he never talked about it.
Right.
Like Don.
And how did that shape his communication?
Yeah.
Right. Or his presence.
Tell me a story. Do you remember him telling us a story about when he was in the service and when he came home? He did tell us a story. Yeah.
Who told the stories?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the stepmom and I.
Oh, Don.
Don's
Don. Well, Don talks. That's what I'm saying. So I was so shocked that we had this major communication. I mean, sometimes he talks too much, but that's okay. That's okay. But you know what I'm saying? So that's why in this realm, the fact that he just assumed I would know things.
Yeah.
Was that's the other thing when you communicate. Don't assume people know anything.
Right. And I think, that brings up a great point. And I've learned this in my own personal life, but used it in my professional life, is that, does that make sense? Do you want to restate it to me? So you don't have to say the same words, which is like, when you leave, close the door.
Right.
You can say it in your own words. You can restate it. And then you get that feeling of, oh, they did understand or they did not understand.
And that is so key, particularly with patients.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or now again, I should have restated to Don. So you want me to tow this car? I could go as fast as I want.
Yeah.
I don't need to know anything, right?
Yeah.
And then that would have prompted more conversation.
Right.
So I think restating is a key tactic to use
to
help in communicating better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if only we could use that with our spouses, would be great.
It's an ongoing process. Communication is an ongoing process.
Oh, it is.
We can, tack that on to, it's really, and here's the thing too, which has worked and not worked for me. I keep going in and out. I don't know why, is that when I request communication with my leadership and get turned down time after time after time, then I would go to the next person ahead. And that's kind of a slippery slope because, but if you try via email, you try via, your immediate supervisor I really need a meeting with so-and-so. Oh, they're busy. They'll get back to you. Oh no, they want you to talk to me, but the person you're talking to can't solve the problem because they don't have the authority to do so. That's a tricky, slippery slope. And,
well, it is. And part of maybe the lesson through that, because that happens all the time, right? It disengages the employee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't feel engaged if somebody doesn't want to talk to you. And perhaps, restating it or finding a way to state what you're saying is a better way to go about it. And it could be, I have been trying to talk to this person for a certain amount of time and nobody has gotten back to me. If I don't hear back from her in a certain period of time, I just want I will go to the next level.
Yeah. And that's the piece I didn't have the wherewithal to do. I just went, I've been asking for a month and a half, 2 months, whatever. I guess I'll just go to the next level.
Right.
And
but most people would do that because they've disengaged you.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't feel like a valued employee if somebody can't spend 5 minutes having a conversation.
But the bigger and better thing would have been to say, I've tried. And so now, by the end of business this week, I will do this other step. And then maybe that would have been, hold off, let's get a date and a time going. And that might have made a big difference. I don't know. We did finally talk, but at that point, it was an uncomfortable situation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, the chain of command is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the chain of command is there to help facilitate work, not to block it.
Right.
Or it shouldn't be there to block it.
Right.
I also don't believe in, the top dog, everybody should go to them as well. I don't believe in that either. I think the chain of command is important, but with that piece is responsibility. Right. The responsibility is the people that are coming up through you. You're responsible for having, communications with them, one-on-ones, whatever it is.
Correct. And I guess since we're on this realm, and then we could go on forever on this topic, but another piece because I've done so much nurse counseling over the years, I'm not sure if my hand needs to stay on the mouse, so why this is happening, but is when nurses are in the workplace and sharing information that's important, it's your break time or the doctor just wrote orders, you're passing things on. But when the conversation leads away from workplace information, oh, I see you're visiting us today from that travel company. So what are they paying you? Like, put on the brakes right away. Yeah. That is an inappropriate conversation to have in the workplace. And so I counseled on that quite a bit because I was counseling a lot of nurses that were on travel assignments. And so money is never a really good idea to talk to about work, particularly if you're employed by different people. I just,
and it's so hard because people feel like they're put in a spot, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I always say, try to use humor.
Yeah.
So, for example, if somebody asks you how much, are you getting paid?
Not enough.
Not enough. And then if they push it again, I'm really curious. And then I would turn it back. Is it that you don't feel valued?
Yeah.
Put back on them.
Yeah.
And if people ask you personal questions that you're not comfortable with, I mean, now this is terrible because, but if somebody keeps pushing and pushing, I'd say, well, listen, just tell me, how much do you actually weigh?
Yeah.
And then if somebody said, well, what's that? Yeah, it's not a comfortable question. All right.
No.
So why are you asking me uncomfortable questions?
Right.
But put it back on them. Again, you don't have to be vicious or whatever, but a lot of it is really recognizing that something's uncomfortable. You don't have to tell anybody anything.
Absolutely.
And in essence, your pay is a professional thing.
Yes.
You don't want to do that because that makes you unprofessional.
Yes.
Right. I work for ABC Travel Company. You should contact them if you're interested in that. And they'll tell you all the stuff. The pay is dependent upon what you bring to the table, your certification. I mean, there's so many answers you could give.
Correct.
Without giving the right answer. I mean,
and I love adding the humor, Mary, because sometimes we have to ask our patients uncomfortable questions, maybe about their weight, or you have to measure them for something,
Right.
So adding humor there is absolutely wonderful.
Oh yeah, humor always works for most things.
Yeah, I can think of a time where a patient was having a lot of problems, and they needed do you know what a Texas catheter? It's an old-fashioned term, Texas catheter, or a condom catheter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would very confidentially say, well, this is what it's like, and it comes in different forms and so forth. So we do have to discuss size. I assume you wanted a large, right? Most men like to hear that,
Of course. Let's hope you brought a small just in case.
I don't even know. I think they only come in 2 sizes, but I'm talking years ago. But it's funny how that stays in my memory,
Yeah. Again, there's so many ways you could say the stuff, right?
Yes.
Why not do it light with light heart? I mean, of course, not everything is a lighthearted conversation, but
right, of course,
where you can use humor, you should.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. All right, my dear. I look forward to talking to you next week. I wish and hope and will keep Sue in my thoughts and my prayers, because already it's been a month. I can't believe it's been a month.
I know. Well, we're hoping she gets to rehab next week. Was there a song "Going to Rehab" by somebody? I can't think of what it was.
Oh my God, Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse, right? I was trying to sing it yesterday in the hospital. I couldn't remember who it was. All right.
All right, honey.
Signing off.
Oh yes. Take care. Love you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.